you can't have a pregnant woman at the age of 16 who is carrying twins and don't know what to do. And these girls, there are many of them, they go through the childbearing and die in the process. And we need to bring more light to their way of thinking. And you will have a just 19-year-old who is married to an 80-year-old man who already have 4 wives, and she is just there. She only do what they ask her to do, and she doesn't know how to go about life. And we have so many of them in millions, in millions. Why are we keeping quiet? Don't politicize this matter. It's not about West or North or South. Just insert yourself into the situation and ask yourself the question, if it was my daughter going through the same thing, what is going to be my reaction? So for me, growing up among 27 siblings and having a father who just, just because of that religion background and the culture, doesn't believe in Western education for the girls in particular. So, and how you pursue it, for me, I took the risk. Of course, it almost took my life. I almost died from it. But you have to just kind of find ways and look for things that will help you to get to the goals that you have set for yourself. To get married to a man with 3, 4 wives, that's not your destiny. Your destiny is literally in your hands, and you can change it. You can change the trajectory of your life. Like here in the Houston, in Texas, for example, even when you file for green cards, it takes many years now for you to get it and all that. But don't feel discouraged, because a lot of people come here. You don't have to marry somebody just to get green card if that's your reason for doing that, because now they are even making more difficult. But you can get your papers regularized by your skills.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians, a podcast covering topics about Africans, Lagosians, Nigerians, as well as trending topics and challenges of Africans living in diaspora. I'm your host, Brother Mike. Today with me, I have a friend of mine, someone who I actually have been following for some time. She's here with us today, and it's just really, really awesome to get her on. She's quite a busy person, so it's been a little bit challenging to schedule her, but I'm glad to have Rabi here with us. Hi, Rabi, please can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, hello everyone. My name is Rabi, and I'm in the Sugarland, Houston area in the Texas.
How's the weather over there?
Weather is good today.
I heard a couple of years ago there was the flood that impacted Houston. Was that close to you guys, or did that really have any effect on you guys?
Yes, it did. It has an effect on almost everywhere around Houston, but thank God we came out of it.
Yeah, so I had a friend who came to New Jersey one time. He actually came during Hurricane Sandy, and his experience was actually pretty bad because it was like, there's no power. There were long queues. I imagine that during the flood you guys had in Houston, you had something similar. What would you tell people that think Nigeria is like Houston during that flood, for example?
Oh, absolutely. What I tell people is these natural disasters, they are actually things that happen once in a while. They don't happen, especially in the area where I live, in the Houston area, Texas, they don't happen often. So if you are coming from a foreign country and you find yourself in such situation, the first thing I would say is look for a shelter, be safe, safety first, right? And don't just conclude that this Nigeria is better than here and things like that. So just try and stay calm, be safe, and not conclude yet, because these disasters do not happen all the time.
So can you please tell us about your experience coming to the US, how long and how you came here? How did that all work out?
So for me, it was a little bit different. I mean, back in the 1999, the year 2000, 2001, I would say that things were pretty easier in terms of applying to schools and getting visas and things like that. For me, for example, coming from Northern Nigeria, I didn't have much high school experience or Western education experience per se. The little that I had was at a church where, the owner of a high school pretty much put me there in order for me to kind of learn a little bit. And with what I experienced coming from Northern Nigeria, it was a personal long story, which I don't want to say here. But I wrote my story to the school at that time. And when they read it, it kind of caught their attention. They gave me admission based on the little knowledge that I had and my ambition and my, what I really wanted to do. So with that, I took from I-20 and the admission letter, I took it to the embassy prayerfully. That same day that I went to the American embassy in Lagos Island, the lady just took my passport and asked me to wait. And, a few minutes later, she came back and gave it to me with a stamp, with a visa on it. So when I came to the US, when it was time for me to come to the US, at that time, 1 million naira was like 11,000 naira, dollars.
Dollars.
That was a lot of money then. And it was very easy to change to get that dollar. And, compared to what it is now.
So you go like a traveler's check.
Exactly, traveler's check. It's almost like 100 naira to $100. It was so easy. And,
100 naira to $1.
Exactly. So when I came to the US, the first place that I arrived was Kansas City. My plane landed there, and Wichita State University was another 4 hours drive away from that airport, and also about 2 hours flight in the air from there. So it was when I was about to get into the taxi to take me to the school that the guy told me that, well, this is not Wichita State University. You still have a long way to go. So I had to board the plane, pay for another ticket, and board the plane and went to the Wichita State University. When I arrived, it was on a holiday. It was a Memorial Day weekend. And that day, all the shops were closed, nowhere to buy food. I remember I brought bread, agege bread, in my bag.
All the way from Nigeria, you brought agege bread?
All the way from Nigeria, there was a bread. Yeah. I don't know why I put the bread in my luggage, but it came handy.
Of course,
because there was nothing to eat. So I went to the dormitory, which is like the hostel. And I stayed there and I ate my bread, waiting for the next day to come where I would be able to buy food. So that cultural shock was there. You asked me earlier on, you just came into the country like, okay, nobody is there. It's a holiday, it's a disaster. What are you going to do? So I just had to be patient and calm down as long as I have a place to sleep that day. And then I just stayed the next day. I started seeing real human beings.
Okay, yeah, because after the holiday, people came back to campus. So, but living in Nigeria, a lot of us in Nigeria, we don't really focus about the Northern Nigeria in terms of the persecutions and in terms of the non-Western education. And very recently, the story of the Chibok girls and Bring Back Our Girls, that's something that has been talked about. So as someone who was in that environment and someone who lived in that world, what would you say your experience was, and how do you think you can provide a bit of hope and advice to those who are still in that position today?
So for me, there are two things. First, the Western Nigeria and Southern Nigeria really need to try and listen and understand the resources or the reasons why the Northern Nigeria is acting the way they are acting. Particularly those boys and girls that are on the streets. They just don't have the means. They don't know what it takes, and they just don't have the opportunity to get out there to do some of the things that you Southerners are able to do. And one of it is Western education, being exposure to knowledge, for example. So for me, growing up among 27 siblings and having a father who just, just because of that religion background and the culture, doesn't believe in Western education for the girls in particular. So what I would say to those girls and folks that are in that predicament is, you need to really ask the question. It is ultimately about you. It's not about the next person. It's not about the religion or about anyone. It's about you. You have to ask yourself the question, 10 years from now, what do I really want to be? What do I want my life to be? And then you build that effort. You begin to pursue it. And how you pursue it, for me, I took the risk. Of course, it almost took my life. I almost died from it. But you have to just kind of find ways and look for things that will help you to get to the goals that you have set for yourself. For example, you want to be exposed and get some Western education. Who are the people around you? Who are those influential people around you that can listen to you? If you are a girl that is like 15, 16, 17, and they're telling you already that you have to get married, you have to ask yourself, 10 years down the road, what do I want my life to be? Do I need education? Then you have to take that bold step and say, I'm not getting married now. I have to wait and just get some education before I get married. But just know that something has to give. It probably means that the people in your society will not like you. Your friends are going to, they're going to desert you. You may not have friends again. That's all right. There's got to be some sacrifice. I didn't have friends anymore at that time. All the Muslim girls that we were friends, they were no longer friends. But I know what I wanted to get in life. So I pursued it, and I was ready to just get rid of those friends. So these are some of the things you have to do. Your family members may hate you, they may not like you, and you don't belong anymore. They don't include you in things anymore. But just know that's the sacrifice that you have to make in order for you to get to where you want to get to. But ultimately, it's your happiness later on and your destiny. It's in your hand, and you have to kind of get up and do something about it. But don't be discouraged, because that's not your ultimate destiny to get married to a man with 3, 4 wives. That's not your destiny. Your destiny is literally in your hands, and you can change it. You can change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah, you remind me of Malala Yousafzai. That's the girl who stood up for education and was shot by the Taliban, and that became an international story. I'm wondering, what do you think that we can do in Nigeria to shed more light into issues like this? Because before I kind of finish my thought there, I was just trying to say that a lot of times you have people who are politicians and people who are in power, and also the cultural, you have to protect what's yours. So if you're a man and you're given all this power, a lot of times you want to protect that. So how do you think that can be addressed in Nigeria? Is that something that we just have to wait for time to change?
Right. So we cannot ignore it. There are a lot of girls. As you know, population in Nigeria, over 200 million, according to UN. More than 50% of it are Northern Nigeria. More than 50% of it are Muslims in Nigeria. And their behavior is driven not just only by religion, but by just the culture. And you mentioned one thing, there are some of these men that are just egoistic, and they feel that the only way they can control and have power is to make sure that the girls do not get that education. Be it Eastern or Western education, I don't care. The moment you start reading and studying, your perspective to things begin to change. And they do not want that for any of the young ladies. To me, I feel that Western Nigeria and the Southern Nigerians, as you know, the population of the Western Nigerians, they are more educated per se. And we need to do more than we are doing now by bringing light to it, by talking more about it, by just, getting people that are influential, that are out there, that understand the value of education to educate the girls in Northern Nigeria. They need education. They need exposure. They need that knowledge to be able to, because you can't have a pregnant woman at the age of 16 who is carrying twins and don't know what to do. And these girls, there are many of them, they go through the childbearing and die in the process. And we need to bring more light to their way of thinking. And you will have a just 19-year-old who is married to I don't know, an 80-year-old man who already have 4 wives, and she is just there. She only do what they ask her to do, and she doesn't know how to go about life. And we have so many of them in millions, in millions. Why are we keeping quiet? Don't politicize this matter. It's not about West or North or South. Just insert yourself into the situation and ask yourself the question, if it was my daughter going through the same thing, what is going to be my reaction? Or if it is me, in my family, what is my reaction? The moment you insert yourself into the position and you begin to see it in that light, you begin to have the compassion towards these people so that you can come out and be of help. In any area you can be of help. You hear a child crying out, please help, not because they are from the north, just because you are human. Wear that human heart and be of help.
So in the US and in other parts of the world, this is something that's actually pretty common. What I can think about is during slavery and the civil rights movement. Well, after slavery era and the abolition of slavery and the civil rights movement, you had a lot of people that were using religion as a tool to subjugate their slaves. So they were only, number one, they were not allowing their slaves to learn how to read. If you learn how to read, you can be punished, you can be killed, you can be their penalty if you know how to read as a slave. So a lot of slaves who actually know how to read then were actually not making people know about it. So it's kind of like you said, I like how you said it's human nature, the humanity. So even though here in America, like 200 years ago, that was something that was used. In other parts of the world, that was something that was used. So as a Lagosian, as a Nigerian, I think most of us think of this as a religion-only issue. I know this is the Islamic religion, this is how the Islamic people behave, but a lot of this is actually not necessarily rooted in Islam, like Western education prohibited. That's not necessarily in the Quran.
That's right.
I like how you're saying, let's expose this, let's talk about this, because it's kind of a form of slavery, the way I see it, whereby young girls that are 12, 13, and they are married to this guy who, like you said, 80 years old, and now nobody's talking about the Chibok girls anymore, but that's something that's still going on in Nigeria, present in Nigeria today, and nobody's talking about it.
That's right.
Yeah. So
that is very true.
Yeah, my other question for you is since you've been to the US now, and you look at people like in Houston, for example, very close to you there, a lot of Nigerians come here and they just do one thing and they don't try to improve themselves. You know, they escaped, for lack of a better term. They come here, but they're not improving themselves. How would you kind of advise those people?
Yes, so if you leave Nigeria and come here, there is a tendency that you are looking for a temporary fix to the problem you may face. And the problem you may face has to do with the financial situation because you want money, you want to live. One first thing I want to advise against is this. When you come here to a new country, there is a tendency for you to start comparing yourself with somebody that has a big house, that has a brand new car. Try to take yourself away from that comparison syndrome and focus on how to improve yourself. So when you go to school, for example, to study, don't just settle with any degree. You need to find out what is trendy in the industry, what is happening. And I give you an example. There are people right now that came here to study petroleum engineering. But petroleum engineering in those days used to be good because you go to work for, oil and gas companies and all that. And their driving factor was the money. And nobody was thinking about the future of renewable energy, which is where the world is going now. We are trying to stop the drilling of the oil. And now it's renewable energy. We're talking about people that have other engineering degrees and skill sets that drive towards renewable energy and things like that. So if you are coming here to settle, to stay here, look at the degree, not just because it's your passion. Your passion, for example, may be music, but you can take your music as your secondary passion that you can make money on the side. But the main career factor would be, let's say, if you want to be a nurse or you want to be an engineer, something like that. You need to look for something so that your passion can enhance your major, where you can actually get that degree and then focus on how to improve yourself in that. And when I say that, you don't just like get a degree and then you settle on that degree. Look for certifications to substantiate your skill set, because you having a certification may not just help you in the long run. You also have that one degree. So you have a background. For example, let's say you came here to study electrical engineering in power system. Maybe you can go and get certification as a Python programming. You can program to enhance your degree in that you got, so that when that company is looking for somebody that is a little bit technical, you have a certification to substantiate that skill set. That's what I'm trying to say. As you know, technology evolve, things are changing. Almost every company is going digital. Is there anything that you already acquire skill that you can learn something, so that as the technology is evolving and changing, your career don't become obsolete? So you can kind of learn that new skills. I have some people that come here to be a nurse and they just settle to be a CNA, certified nurse aide, or LVN, licensed, nurse, and then licensed vocational nurse, and then they stay there forever. 20 years later, they are still LVNs. Why don't you say, okay, I have had enough of the experience as an LVN, I can be an RN. You just get some additional education to be an RN. And after a while, you can get a bachelor's degree in nursing. You just continue to improve yourself in that, so that you can stand out amongst your peers. So please, as you plan to come to the US, always start thinking about how you can improve yourself in your career. Don't just settle for less.
Yeah. Then you also were telling me about your sister a while ago. Would you like to share that story? Because I think it's fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. So I have a sister who I was at the time, I was just about 16 years old and she was 18. Because of this lack of education and a guy that just came and said he wants to marry her, and she settled for it. And I remember, she got married at the age of 18, and now she has 9 children. And this lady, my dearly beloved sister, she would have loved to go to school. And I offered her that opportunity. I wanted her to really get some education, and I was willing to pay for it. But the husband told me to back off. And he told me, I do not want my wife to get a Western education. And I asked him, is there any other education you want her to get into? And I'll pay for it. It doesn't have to be Western education, quote. And he said, no, do not educate her, because I don't want her to go to school. And that is the situation that so many people have found themselves. Now, why did she have 9 children? She had 9 children because she just kept having girls, and she wanted a boy so bad. And I think it was in her 8 children that she had a boy, which almost killed her. So to me, if somebody with education would say, I will stop at these 4 girls, 3 girls, because I know that I'm not the one that determine whether to have a boy or girl, because ultimately the chromosomes of the X, the Y, the X and X is not the determining factor for having children. She will not know until she's educated. So this exposure is lack of exposure for some girls in Northern Nigeria is what is really killing them. So I think we can be of help by talking more about it. Thank goodness we have social media now. Some of them are sneaking out to have Facebook account, Instagram account, just for them to see what is out there. So this lack of education that is killing a lot of the girls in the North, we need to do something about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. As we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or final things you'd like to say to our audience?
Well, unfortunately, we are here talking about you leaving Nigeria. Yes, I left, and I'm very happy to leave, and I'm not going to stop you from leaving. So as you are planning on coming, just that there are so many challenges you are going to face. I will not sugarcoat it. It takes someone with resilient spirit. It takes someone with determination to survive in different country that you're not going to have your aunt there if you are not lucky. You're not going to have your uncle there. There's so many things here. It's like an isolated island. However, there are a lot of good opportunity. You just have to stay focused. You are going to be living in a country where you are used to see people on the streets, used to, buying food on the streets, and you are going to come into a place where your neighbor, you don't even know who your neighbor is. So, but don't let that discourage you. You just have to kind of know what your end goal is. Once you know what your end goal is, when you are here, you are facing those difficulties such as, okay, how do I get papers? Like here in in Texas, for example, even when you file for green cards, it takes many years now for you to get it and all that. But don't feel discouraged, because a lot of people come here. You don't have to marry somebody just to get green card if that's your reason for doing that, because now they are even making more difficult. But you can get your papers regularized by your skills. You can put in for PhD. You can put in as a master's degree. When you publish a couple of papers, you can actually file for green card by yourself without entangling yourself with this other stuff, which that's not the subject of this conversation today.
Right.
I just want you to know that there are so many unknowns, but just keep to your goal, be determined and be resilient. You're not going to die. Ultimately, you will live to tell a good story like me.
Wow. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your story.
For having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So guys, thanks for listening. That's all the time we have for today's show. Please follow us on all the social media platforms. Follow us on YouTube as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. If you are listening to this and you think it's giving you value, please go ahead and hit the like button. Thank you all for being here, and until next time, we'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.